Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Live Boldly with Sarah. Today is Sunday. I have been cleaning out and purging my entire home. And I got to tell you, I'm excited to take a break from that to share this with you because we're going to be talking a little bit about purging, why we purge, what we let go of, and how we create space for new experiences, relationships, different things that we want to come into our life. So last night, the middle of the night, I kept hearing this beeping sound going off in my house. And my son walked into my room and he's like, Mom, what the heck? I said, What is that? And he's like, I don't know. There's something beeping in my bedroom and I don't know what it is. And I went in and the carbon monoxide, ooh, I know, the carbon monoxide detector was going off. So I grabbed a chair, took it off of the wall, and changed the batteries to make sure it wasn't that. And just sitting here all day today, waiting for the gas company to show up to do a test on our house. So in the meantime, we are cleaning out and purging other parts of the house because I can't leave because I have to wait for them to show up. So talk about an opportunity strikes when you least expect. I can't leave. So I was like, well, guess what, buddy? We get to clean the house today. We get to go through and purge all of the things that we no longer want from this last year, the things that we've been holding on to. And this goes into what I've also really wanted to talk to you all about, which is this whole concept of a bucket list that we have in our life. And what is a bucket list? Do you have a bucket list? I mean, I know many people that do, many people that don't. I do. I have a list of things that I do want to accomplish in my life. However, some of my things on my bucket list are written in pen. In other words, like I can't erase them because I know, or let's say permanent marker, I'm like, I know that that's what I want to do. And I'm dedicated to make that happen. And then some of the things on my bucket list are written in pencil, where I'm giving myself some permission to erase it and put something else in its place if I choose. Because let's face it, things happen in life. We have new relationships that come in. Maybe our partner doesn't want to do some of the things that we want to do. And so then we, because relationships are a give and a take, right? So it's like, well, maybe I need to create more space for the experiences that they want to bring into the life, the partnership that we are having together. So let's kind of backtrack though. So we are cleaning our house today. We're purging all of these things. And what's funny about going through this process, I've done this so many times with my teenagers. What's funny though is that every single time it for some reason it's the same. It's like I walk into the bedroom and I say, okay, let's clean up the room. Let's, create space. Let's go through the old clothes. You're growing, you've outgrown a bunch of stuff. Maybe your taste has changed, or you have how many uniforms that are old, which ones can we get rid of so that we can create space in the dresser for the new ones coming in. And when I went in there and I saw what my son had done, he's like, yeah, I cleaned it. Like, it's great. And he's like laying on his bed, scrolling through his phone because he's studying basketball stuff, all those things. And I said, but okay, bud, but like, how about looking at the things that you have been looking past for so long? And he said, what are you talking about? I go, well, how many backpacks does one kid need? He has backpacks from when he was 6 years old hanging on, the wall. I have this big thing that I put up for my boys to hang all of their backpacks, their sports, their junior guards, their, if it's soccer, old soccer backpacks, basketball, school backpacks. I said, how many backpacks do you need? You've been looking at that wall with all those backpacks on it, and you've been looking at it for so long and seeing the same thing that you're actually looking past the fact that you have probably 25 backpacks hanging up and you really don't need them all. So how about if we take some of those down and we create space for something new? And, just sitting with this and me going through this process with him, I think that there are so many times in our life where we become so accustomed to what is almost like the quote junk pile, or the things that are just sitting there that we negate to look at it. We look past it and negate to look at it like this is an opportunity to actually clean it up and to get rid of some of the things that are no longer serving us, that have been sitting there for so long, just taking up space, literally for some of us, unbeknownst to us, like my son. And so this is where it gets funny. So I'm literally like, I'm in the kitchen going through drawers and whatever, going through the bathroom drawers. And the next thing I know, he walks out with probably 15 backpacks and he drops them onto the floor and he's like, okay, so I don't need any of these. And I said, okay, wow, that's a lot of backpacks that you've been holding on to. And he said, yeah, can we just go through them, pull out what, might be still sitting inside? I don't know, like old bananas that I cannot even express to you how gross that was. An apple that must have been in there for probably 6 months. I found $9. I found probably $6, over $6 in change just in one backpack alone. Pencils that were so disgusting. I'm like, what do you put in there? And how do you just let it just get that gross? I don't know. Anyhow, so we went through all the backpacks and ended up getting rid of the ones that he, made his final say on, where he's like, no, I really don't need these. Let's get rid of those. And then the other ones we're throwing in the wash, hoping that they come clean so that he can reuse them at some point if he chooses. It was a really good lesson for him, though, on a number of things. Number one, what is hanging there that you have been looking over because you've just become so accustomed to it simply being there, taking up space? Number two, where can you pull that off the wall or out of the dresser or whatever it is, out of your life, and actually unpack it and see what is inside? Because you might find some really good gems, by the way. I walked away with a lot of money that I put in yes, I am that mom. I put that money in my wallet because I'm like, dude, I found it. You didn't. So where can you pull that off, right? And actually look and uncover, this is in your life as well, a very big metaphor for your life, and find the gems, right, that you perhaps forgot were in there. And then as you clean out that space, just sit and look at it for a moment and pat yourself on the back and congratulate yourself for creating space for the new things to be coming in. Because if we're not creating that space, right? If we're not actually carving it out, if we're not actually cleaning the plates, where are we going to put those new things that and give them the deserved space, right? That where we want to bring them in to our life. You don't want to just pile one thing on top of another. You want to actually create a dedicated space for those new things. And so I encourage all of you to, at some point in the beginning of this year, clean out your space. Because when you clean out your space, it is also a reflection of your life. As I'm sitting here looking at my desk, and it is a complete mess because that's what I need to do next. I did this once before, for those that don't know, back in not long after when I was going through my divorce. I sold my house, my 4,200 square foot house, and 98% of the stuff that was in it, just got rid of it, cleaned it out. And my boys and I moved across the street into an 800 square foot rental that we're still in, by the way, because I wanted them to understand this process of simplification and of letting go of the things that we don't need, understanding that material items really do not give us the pleasure that experiences do. And so I told them, you know what, you guys, when you come into this new house, I want you to only bring in the things that touch your heart and your soul, the things that bring good memories to your day, right? Where you look at it, if it's something as silly as a rock, where you remember that rock was picked up in Fiji when we were on an island together with all of our friends, or whatever it is, right? I told them, make sure that it touches your heart and your soul, and that it's a necessity in your life to bring happiness and joy before you bring it into this space, our new home. It's not just a house, it's a home. And so we've gone through this process many, many times. And actually, My middle son and I did a podcast, which you'll hear, I believe, next week. It's an incredible podcast. And that was one of the things that we talked about was those difficult experiences and they form us, right? And how we can learn from them. And so that process of really cleaning out our life every now and then, all the way down to the bottom, is a really good, both physically, right, in our space and also within us to really find that version of who we are. And that leads into this whole conversation of bucket lists. So I've gone back and forth in my life between, I think bucket lists are cool and I think bucket lists are just wildly eccentric and maybe sometimes a little bit stupid. I don't know. That said, where I'm at right now in my life at 50, I freaking love a good bucket list. And the bucket list that I have termed, right, or these things that I want to do in my life, that I want to fulfill or succeed or try, goes from everything in the professional space in the, well, why not? Why not try it? Why not write another book? Why not shoot for the stars and, land on the biggest stage possible? Why not put my message out there in a new way? Why not rebrand, which I'm doing right now? I'm going through a whole rebrand, upbrand right now. Why not go into a space that you never thought possible and share and teach and really find what you are truly capable of? Why not? And so it's from that, right? In both the professional space, the personal space, the relationship space, where you have this opportunity to put on your list, this list of life. It's almost like a life list. It's not just a bucket list. It's like a life list of those things that have been calling to your heart and your soul, right? So those things that you have had those little tinges of like, God, wouldn't it be really cool to try that? And then being able to create space to see, like, do I really want to do this? Do I really want to go there? Do I really want to travel to Indonesia? Which, by the way, yes, I do. Do I really want to travel the world? Yes, I do. Do I want to go, do I want to write another book? Actually, I do, and I will. And so it's the bucket list piece is not only about those places you want to seek, right? Like the physical places, those places you want to go or those things that you want to try. It's also where I look at a bucket list is those places within my own life, within my own successes, or those things in the professional, the personal space, the relationship space that I am seeking for my heart and my soul. Like what is really calling to me? And making sure that I get very clear on that. That's why I say, some of the things on my list are written in pen or in marker, like you can't erase it, to other things that are written in pencil where I'm like, okay, well, yeah, this is like, I'm kind of thinking about this, right? Not quite there yet. Not like, yeah, I want to do it. It's like, I've got a little interest in it. Here's the thing that I will say that I have found most important over the last 10 years of my life as I've gone through this journey of self-exploration. You got to have awareness and listen to what is being called to you. And don't say no until it's an absolute no. Really sit with, like, for example, when I'll give you an example, when I was on the John Muir Trail and I was sitting in the John Muir hut, oh my God, I'll never forget this. I was actually recording a podcast episode or just about to, and this couple, this boyfriend, girlfriend, they walked into the hut. They were exhausted. And I said, where'd you guys come from? And they said, oh, we came off the Sierra High route. And I'm like, what's the Sierra High route? And they said, oh, it's the route that's 200 or 190 something miles. And there is no trail. You're literally route finding throughout the tallest peaks in the United States. And like in the High Sierras. They said it's actually above where you're hiking right now, because I was on the John Muir Trail for 22 days. That is above the trail. You're actually, when you're looking up, meaning me, when I was looking up at the tallest peaks within those peaks that were surrounding us, that's where those people were. And I was like, dang, that's crazy. I said, aren't you afraid of getting lost? Aren't you afraid of like falling off the edge? Aren't you afraid of like that sounds scary? And they said, yeah, but it's something that was called to us. We were like, okay, well, what's next? And when they were on the trail, they had this, they found out about the route, and it like sent this little like, oh, maybe we want to try that someday. Probably not, but maybe. And here they were doing it. And I remember thinking to myself, literally, I said, well, do you want to come join our podcast? Because there was a whole bunch of us that were recording this podcast together in the John Muir Hut. And they said, oh, yeah, cool. We'll do it with you. And reflections of, trail time and being out in the wild, whatever. And I remember so clearly sitting there thinking to myself, I will never do that. To think that I would be route finding was like, there is a no, an absolute no. Like, no, I'm not, I can't imagine doing that. And yet there was also a spark of interest. And that spark of interest, even though my brain, right, like my mind, my conscious self was sitting there saying, oh, hell no, I'm not going to go route find in the tallest peaks in the United States. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want to get lost. I don't want to, like, how do you do that? All I kept thinking was like, but how? How do you do that? And yet the spark, subconscious, right? Or in my heart, in my intuition was, that sounds really kind of cool. That sounds really kind of cool. Like, you know, is this like, could I possibly do this? Is this something that I might want to actually explore into? And it was literally 2 years later that I found myself on the Sierra High route doing the first section of that route, which, as you know, we are section hiking. So this year in 2024 will be the last section of the route that we will be doing. And, going off trail and route finding and standing on top of a peak and looking out, not even sure which peak you're going to be going to next, except that, you're literally like looking at your phone or at your map and you're figuring it out, right? Like, oh, we're going that direction. I believe it's that peak over there. And how are we going to get there as we are climbing down the side of this mountain and, off to that ledge and then up those boulders or whatever it is. It is one of the coolest things when you can allow yourself the opportunity to explore in your life what is possible and what you are capable of. So before, as you are creating this list, call it a bucket list, call it whatever you want in your life, before you give yourself an absolute hell no, right? From every part of you, if there is a spark, that's all it needs is a spark. If there is a spark within your heart, your soul, within that subconscious, unconscious of like, whispering to you, just whispering, maybe you want to look at that and actually listen, because you never know what you are capable of until you try it. You got to create space though, too. Remember that. You have to create the space. And so as you are cleansing out from 2023, and you can do this at any time, my friends, like cleansing out does not have to be in January. It can be in the middle of the year. You can be cleansing out for that second part of the year. Like there is no, you got to do it on January 1st. It's never too late, right? It's never too late. I don't care how old you are, and I don't care what day in the year it is in that calendar year. It's never too late to clean out and say, okay, this is calling to me. And you know what? Me actually doing this episode, I know I can feel it. How many of you right now are sitting there saying, okay, like, yeah, that was an interest of mine, but I put a hell no on it before I actually listened to that little whisper, or I allowed myself to really fan the flame, that spark that was started within you. And so create the space, start that list, see what's possible. I promise you, there is so much fun in this journey. There is so much fun. You will never know unless you try, right? As I always tell my kids, you miss 100% of the shots that you never take. So with that, I hope you have enjoyed this episode. Some really good things to think about, and make sure that you pop in. I believe it's next week when I will have my middle son, Carson, the USC water polo player, on, and he's going to talk a lot about, oh, it's so good. It's everything from mental health, mindset, resilience, what he's learned, what the game has taught him, how it equates to life. And it was a really fun conversation with him. So if there's ever anything that you want me to jam on, please just send me a message. Send me a text or a text. Yeah, okay. Some of you that have my phone number, or a message, an iMessage, or whatever it is. Send me a note through my email, sarah@sarahschultenkranz.com. And I promise you, I will do whatever I can to have on that guest or to have that conversation that interests you. Just so you all know, our podcast grew, I believe it was 85% this last year. That's wild. We are now streaming in 24 countries, which is really cool. And most of our listeners, our new listeners, came from this last year. So I'm really excited about where this podcast is going. And my hope is to like quadruple that. I told my son, I said, hey, listen, buddy, having you on, if we can hit 48 countries, if we can double this, I'd be stoked, because he does know a lot of people around the world through the sport that he's played. So we'll see. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for being here. Make sure that you spread this message, spread this podcast episode, and I look forward to seeing you next week.